Ta-da!
Is it?
This is it.
Well,
I'm the surprise.
Welcome.
I'm the surprise.
Welcome back.
Yeah, nice to be back.
To your home, your stomping ground, where you're supposed to be.
This is going to happen a lot more often than you think.
Oh, okay, good.
And by a lot more often, I mean maybe once.
Okay.
Like, let's not go nuts.
Yeah.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, hockey is almost back. Oklahoma wins again, and Brian Windhorst joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with last night's brutal Game 1. Ooh. Where the Celtics dominated the Mavericks, opening up a 17-point lead at the end of the first quarter, stretching it to 29 points in the second quarter. Boston ultimately won by 18, holding Dallas to a playoff low of 89 points. Wilbon, you were there. What impressed you about the Celtics, and what is on the Mavericks' to-do list?
Well, the plan, the execution, Mr. Porzingis, the return of Porzingis, where he goes crazy from three and he blocks 3 shots early, ball game. But also the way the Celtics attacked Luka Doncic. He was tired. They tired him out.
Right.
And that, to me, Tony, that's always a good thing. Improved. But attack him. Do that as much as you can both ways, and maybe you can tire him out. The other thing is that Kyrie Irving is going to hit those shots in Game 2. He just is. He missed shots that he normally hits. And to me, that defense didn't do anything to Kyrie Irving. Porzingis did block one of those jump shots, which was stunning. But Kyrie Irving is going to hit 50% or about that of those same shots in the next game. So I think it will go differently, win or lose. I'm not getting into yet. But there's some things that Dallas can do to jump back in this.
Okay, so I want to say at the top that I believe Dallas will win Game 2.
Okay.
I don't believe that Kyrie Irving will shoot 6 for 19 and be as miserable as he was last night. And I believe that Dallas' starters, other than Doncic, will get more than a combined 39 points and shoot better than 1 for 10 from 3. And I believe that Doncic will get more than 1 assist, which was a career low. Because if that doesn't happen, this is a 4-game series.
Yes.
Right, no, the series is over. Boston, as we have seen, the only vulnerability they've had in the playoffs is in Game 2 at home. They lost to Miami at home. They lost to Cleveland at home. They haven't lost any other games. So I am expecting, because I believe, like you do, that the series is going to go 6 or 7. I believe that Dallas is going to be better. Because, again, if not, this thing is over. I want to get to Porzingis briefly. Because I've sat with you a number of times, and you said to me, I don't know, Tony, you think Porzingis is better than I think he is, and he's not that good. He killed them last night.
He did.
He hadn't played in 38 days. He shot 8 for 13, had 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 blocks. He got in the game in the first quarter. They were up 1. When he left 7 minutes later, they were up 17.
Came off the bench.
So they if they don't stop him, and I said, Mike, this is why I said to you yesterday, I take Boston without hesitation, because he's coming back.
Yeah, but is Porzingis going to be that good again?
I don't think so.
Not Game 2.
I don't think
He
so.
may do it again. He may give him a second great game in the series. I'm not saying he won't.
Do they have to win 2?
Talent.
Does Dallas have to win 2? I'm not sure.
I think they need to. But Boston, look, Tony, this is great. Funny thing about being in New England, being in Boston, where sports fans are so cocky about their sports, and they should be, because they got teams that win stuff.
That's right.
But the Celtics, they're all going, we don't know. They're skittish. And that's because the Celtics have let them down, because they've lost these home games, because their record at home since 2020 is something like 17 and 16.
They're 13 and 2 in the playoffs right now.
Okay,
but 8-0.
They ain't played nobody yet till last night.
Well, they crushed them last night.
They did crush
them.
They did. Panthers, Oilers finally dropped the puck tomorrow in South Florida. Edmonton's Connor McDavid, I almost said Connor Bedard. Connor McDavid would cement his status as one of the all-time greats if he wins his first cup. But Florida's back in the final for a second straight season and beat the Oilers both times they played in this regular season by a combined score of 10-4. Tony, you love stars, and your heart may say Oilers.
Yeah.
But does your head?
Okay, my heart does say Oilers. I want a Canadian team to win. It's been 30 years, and that's far too long. I want to see Connor McDavid win, because too many people have come on this show and said to us how great a player he is, so I would like to see him win. But I think you're right about my head. I think you're right, because I respect the Stanley Cup process. And regularly, teams that get to the Stanley Cup final for the first time, they don't win. Florida got there last year as an 8 seed. They lost to a 1 in Las Vegas, and Vegas had been to the finals in a recent period of time.
Yeah.
maybe the spotlight is too large when you get to the finals for the first time. People say that you have to absorb the lessons. This year, Florida comes in as a 3, Edmonton as a 5, and I think that we're looking at conditions that favor Florida. I'll just say one other thing. Florida in the regular season was the best defensive team in the NHL. You're going to like this number. They allowed 2.41 goals against. They're the second best defensive team in the playoffs so far, 2.29 goals against. And I know they haven't seen McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman, but they got a guy on defense, Alexander Barkov, who stops big guys.
But you know what? Power play. That's, first of all, Florida commits a lot of infractions. And Edmonton scores a lot of power play goals. That's where their strength has been in these playoffs. It's particularly lately. So if Florida is sloppy or careless or commits too many penalties, Edmonton, I think, will cash in.
Do you know what Florida's penalty kill rate is? It's 88%.
Okay.
By the way, Barkov is a center.
That 88% doesn't come against Edmonton.
Not yet.
Edmonton's power play has been great.
Right, it's been great.
All right, so
that's right.
So I'm counting on Edmonton's power play, and particularly that line, all right, particularly those 2-star players to cash in. Again, it's if Florida gets careless, maybe they won't. They were in the final last year. Maybe they won't do that. By the way, I identify with a team that the first time it was in the Cup recently won. And that was the Blackhawks. They didn't need a second time in. They won in 2010.
I think you would find regularly it works the opposite way. Okay. Regularly. Right. We move now to softball, where Oklahoma beat Texas last night 8-4 and swept the College World Series. As left-handed pitcher Kelly Maxwell closed the game and won Most Outstanding Player. I believe I had that. This was Oklahoma's 4th straight national championship. Wilbon, what's the word for that?
Dynastic. Dynastic. And we knew that was going to be the case if they won. And that game had some entertaining moments last night. And I feel sorry for the player who strayed too far from first base after hitting safely and getting essentially picked off, caught off.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's fine. But let's look at Oklahoma bigger picture. 4 championships in anything. Not that many schools have won 4 straight in anything. So when you do, that's a dynasty. Yeah. You need to chirp, 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 and you need to get your flowers now, and they are. But let me just say quickly, Tony, NIL or payment, straight cash, homie, from schools, and we don't know where all that's going specifically, but more money's coming in, and the transfer portal. I don't know what's going to happen, even to a dynasty. I don't know if it's going to become like men's basketball, where you start to get so many teams that can compete, more teams that compete now for the softball title.
Some people transfer in. Didn't Kelly Maxwell transfer in from Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Isn't that how that worked? Look, the word for me is unprecedented because it hasn't happened before in softball. And I'm sure that it's very gratifying for Oklahoma because they had to sit there and eat it while the seeding committee made Texas number 1. When you consider they were 2-2 in the regular season and the only meaningful game was the Big 12 championship, which Oklahoma won. 4 in a row is enormous in anything. I was surprised to find out it's not the high. I'm going to give you a few because Northwestern's on this list.
I know we are.
North Carolina women's soccer was 9. Maryland women's lacrosse was 7. Northwestern women's lacrosse was 5. USC baseball at one time was 5. Breanna Stewart at UConn, they won 4 in a row. These women on Oklahoma, the seniors, every year they've won. And I will give you this one number, and you're going to love this number. In the last 4 years, they're 235-15. That's an average of 59-4 every single year.
Look,
come on.
They are a dynasty. There's no arguing it.
Yeah.
And you want to see now, okay, so how long can they keep it going?
No.
Because to go above 4,
it's longer than it's ever been.
But if you go above that, you just continue to just say, keep it coming.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. Coming up, the Lakers are reportedly meeting with UConn coach Dan Hurley. We're going to ask Brian Windhorst about that.
And we're also going to ask him where things stand with Kevin Durant and the Suns.
You know where I am on Dan Hurley in the Lakers. He's too frenetic for the NBA.
Well, he's got to make big changes.
Well, but
big.
ESPN senior basketball writer Brian Windhorst. Let's start with this, okay? The Lakers, and you know about this, they're reportedly meeting with UConn coach Danny Hurley today. What do you think of this potential fit?
So I've had 2 different types of reactions since Woj broke this news yesterday. One was from people in the NBA going, is this real? Because they couldn't believe that this was actually happening. that this was actually the direction that the Lakers wanted to go. The second was what I heard from my college friends, either coaches in the profession or scouts who specialize in college basketball. They were like, Dan Hurley as an NBA head coach? Like, we would never have seen that because of the way he coaches. But he is regarded as an excellent tactician, an excellent developer of players. And he has said on multiple occasions, including this week, that he really wants to challenge himself in the NBA. If you're going to leave the college profession, now is the time maybe to do it when this NIL thing is a mess. The Lakers' job is very, very hard. The way that you're going to be able to determine success for next year, I don't know how you're going to do it. So the pickings are slim for the Lakers. So hiring a long-term coach who will at least theoretically, by his contract and by the way they bring it, make it to come to pass, and not making it about next year and saying this is a 5-6 year hire does make sense. And if you're going to hire a college basketball coach, I guess Dan Hurley does make sense. But I think we're all, and I mean the basketball world, still a little collectively in shock at this.
If Tony thinks he's sick of talking about the Lakers now, just wait. Just wait if Hurley accepts this gig, if this becomes true. So, Brian, let's stay out west. Let's stay way away from I-95 for a second and go to the Suns. And I don't hear great things about the Suns and Kevin Durant, but your ear is closer to the ground. What do you hear?
So the Suns are in the middle of revamping their entire organization. Mike Budenholzer, obviously, as the head coach, is revamping the entire coaching staff. They're revamping the front office. They're revamping the support staff. They're trying to approach next season with a completely clean slate. They're going to have to revamp quite a bit of the roster. So I do understand why you're asking me about Kevin Durant. And I do think that some of the league is keeping at least a side eye on what's happening there because this season really just didn't go the way anybody thought. But I do believe, especially with what Durant said at the end of the season, that they want to give this at least another go. So I would keep an eye on it, but I would say expect Kevin Durant to be a Sun at least into the start of next season.
Okay. As a desert person, I'd like to see that work. We're going to stay out west. Annoying Kornheiser even more. At least
I
think the answer was going to produce some talk about the West. Commissioner Adam Silver seemed bullish, talking about expansion. I can't imagine one of those cities not being in Vegas and the other one actually not being in Seattle. But again, you were all over this stuff more than me. What do you think about expansion and where it'll be if it happens?
Yeah, so the NBA had a priority. They wanted to get a collective bargaining agreement done. That got done last year. They needed to get new TV media rights deals done. That's on the verge of happening. With those two in place, next up is going to be expansion. I think if the media rights deals get done, I think you'll see this be a major topic at the Board of Governors, Board of Owners meeting in July or in September to start the season, where they will begin a process. There are multiple groups that are preparing to make a bid for Las Vegas. There are multiple groups in Las Vegas that are either building or want to build competing arenas to get the team. And the arena renovation that they did in Seattle was specifically designed not just for the Kraken, but to eventually welcome back an NBA team. All of the momentum is going in that direction. I would say a couple of things. One, don't make any assumptions who's getting this team. This is going to be a bidding war. This is going to potentially be crazy. And Adam Silver hasn't even closed the door on allowing institutional investors into trying to buy these teams, a.k.a. Middle Eastern money, potentially. Right now, there's a limit on how much they can put in, but there's a possibility that you could get a crazy bidding war. It seems to me that the groups want Vegas. That is a little puzzling to me because I think Seattle might actually be the better market, certainly the bigger market and the richer market, but the glamour of Vegas is drawing teams, is drawing bidders in. There are multiple people trying to get there, including LeBron James, who's been eyeing it for a while. My guess is that if they got something done in the next year, you'd be looking at 2 years before you could actually do this. Of course, none of this is finalized. There's a lot of process to go through, but I think we're going to see 32 teams in the NBA. I wouldn't rule out Mexico City. The NBA has placed a G League team there to test it out, but I think we're a little premature for that. I think it'll be Vegas and Seattle. I think you're looking at least $5 billion as an expansion fee, or 4 to 5. Honestly, I'm going to say 5. I think it could, even eclipse that. You're going to get a bidding war for that. And here's the interesting part. Obviously, if you send 2 teams to the Western Conference, you got to send 2 teams to the Eastern Conference. That is going to be something you're going to want your popcorn for, because all these teams aren't going to want to compete in the West. You're going to have Minnesota, you're going to have Memphis, you're going to have New Orleans, maybe even other teams trying to get to the Eastern Conference. That'll be something to watch down the line, maybe theoretically, what have you.
Very easy to accomplish. Just, build a couple of arenas on I-95, make Wilbon.
2 teams in Vegas.
Thank you, Brian.
2 teams in Vegas.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Enjoy the weekend.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson set a new date for their fight. Enough of this.
No,
Enough.
I want to see that fight.
Enough.
It's going to be in the West. I know you can't handle that. The Dodgers and Yankees get set to play 3.
Everybody wants to put everything in Las Vegas. They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
That's every league wants Las Vegas. Pretty simple. Happy time, people. Happy 32nd birthday on Sunday, Zach Hyman. Hyman, not Connor McDavid, not Leon Draisaitl, is the leading goal scorer in the playoffs for Edmonton to propel Edmonton to the Stanley Cup Final, which begins tomorrow night in Florida. Hyman came to Edmonton from Toronto, where he had played 6 years. Oilers GM Kenny Holland signed Hyman as a free agent in 2021 and now says Hyman may be the best signing he ever made. Hyman has posted career highs in goals each year in Edmonton, 27 in 2022, 36 in 2023, 54 this season. Playing alongside McDavid really helps.
So that's like Yari Curry playing alongside Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier. Curry had 71, 68, and 54 goals, and one of those years outscored Gretzky in goals 68 to 52. Wayne Gretzky. Edmonton, they got a formula, don't they? They know what they're doing.
Happy anniversary, Wes Unseld. This is posthumous, but on this day 46 years ago, the burly big man led the Washington Bullets to a Game 7 win over Seattle in the NBA Finals, while fellow eventual Hall of Famers Elvin Hayes and Bobby Dandridge scored more points. Unseld's imposing presence in the paint earned him Finals MVP. In 1969, Unseld had joined Wilt Chamberlain as the only NBA players ever named Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season. This final series stretched out over 18 days, presumably for television, the longest playoff series in total number of days in any sport. Even the 1989 World Series, interrupted for 10 days by the earthquake, lasted only 15 days. For those counting, this Celtics-Mavs series is actually scheduled for 18 days if it goes 7.
It's 2 days longer than the Olympics. The Olympics
Are you kidding?
go 16. Now, Wes Unseld.
It's longer than the Olympics?
We got to talk about Wes Unseld.
Oh.
The great David Dupree, when I was going to sub for him covering the Bullets back in the day, he said, you better pay attention. Because reporters could go, coaches, as you know, they let us in practice all the time. And he said, you better pay attention. Because Wes will call you out on the floor and make you walk through the play. He will do that. And Wes Unseld would quiz you, quiz the reporters covering the team. What's the play? Come walk through it. It's great.
Greatest outlet passer
of all
in
time.
the history of
We
basketball.
miss Wes Unseld. We both do.
Happy trails to last night's game for your White Sox, Wilbur.
Oh.
Chicago broke a 100-year-old franchise record with its 14th straight loss. This one to the Red Sox by a fitting score of 14-2. It was such a laugher that White Sox infielder Danny Mendick blooped his way through the ninth and was the only White Sox pitcher not to surrender a run. The White Sox are now a Major League worst 15-48. They're already 26 games out of first in the AL Central. This team lost 101 games last season. Chairman Jerry Reinsdorf called it, quote, the worst year I've ever suffered through, unquote. Well, Jerry, buckle up, because this year's team is on pace to beam in that number with 123 L's.
You know I'm a Cub fan, through and through.
But you're a White Sox fan,
I
too.
love Jerry and Michael Reinsdorf. I do. I know them. I respect them. I'm never going to root against them. I'm not. This has got to be tough for Jerry because this is the worst baseball team I've ever seen. It is.
It's
I don't
sad. It's actually
I grew up
sad.
on the
for
South
me.
Side. It's the South Side
They're
team.
a,
I hate it.
they're an old
Yes.
team. This shouldn't be
like
happening.
140 years.
All right, let's go to the big finish if we could.
Let's do it.
Carlos Alcaraz will face Alexander Zverev in Sunday's French Open men's final. Who you got?
Alcaraz. More importantly, we're going to see the two of them playing a lot, you would think, with good health. I mean, this
And
is
Sinner.
the new generation.
And Sinner. Yeah, and Sinner.
Jake Paul, Mike Tyson rescheduled for November 15. Okay by you?
It's fine, but it's not going to happen November 15th.
What?
No, it's going to be postponed at least twice more.
No, we're going to see that. I'm going to that
We'll see
fight.
it eventually. The Rockies placed your boy Chris Bryant on a 10-day IL with ribcage and back issues. Your thoughts?
This is like Anthony Rendon. They won World Series. Chris Bryant was the MVP.
Yeah.
Huh?
Sad. It's sad.
And it's
sad.
Belmont Stakes tomorrow at Saratoga. Who you got?
Andy Beyer, our great friend, has Sierra Leone. Not Seize the Day, which won the Preakness.
Not going
Not
to
Mystic
Sierra
Dan,
Leone.
which won. No, not going
Seize
there.
the Gray.
Seize the Gray. I'm sorry. Last one, Dodgers and Yankees for 3, starting tonight. Got to be excited.
No, it's too early. I'd like to see. You know what? We're at the point now where I would love to see that as the World Series.
How did you know the name of that horse? How did you know it was Seize the Gray?
I got lucky.
Somebody's in your ear.
No.
You don't know. You've never seen the horses. You don't know. We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Corners. A shout out.
I'm Mike Wilbon.
Can I shout out to a doctor,
Yes,
please?
please.
Jason Engel. Thank
There
you.
we go. Have a great weekend, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts. 18 days. I'm not packing for 18 days. That's why I'm back here.
Optimistic about his recovery. Coach Andy Reid was asked about him today.
Well, I was able to be right there. I mean, I jumped in there and just from my office. So I came down and popped in. Not much help. They had it under control. So, but that's tough. I mean, that's a tough situation. I've had, we've been through a couple of those before in my time, and it's never fun. Thank goodness. So, I mean, if it had to happen, no better place than right here, where you have the support unit that knows what to do. So.
Some good news there. Other stories we're following: the fight between ex-heavyweight champ Mike Tyson and YouTuber turned fighter Jake Paul has been rescheduled November 15th. It was postponed after the 57-year-old Tyson had medical issues. Tennis: Carlos Alcaraz survived Jannik Sinner in 5 sets to reach the French Open final. Alcaraz looking to add the French title after winning the U.S. Open in 2022 and Wimbledon last year. He'll face Alexander Zverev in the final on Sunday. Panthers, Oilers attracting about equal number of bets to win the Stanley Cup final, but more money is being bet on Florida, which is the favorite to win this series. More on tomorrow's Game 1 coming up. Top 3 and 4 of the top 6 scores in the postseason. Florida's leading scorer, Matthew Tkachuk, 37% of the time. Panthers team defense, next level. They've had the 3rd best goals against average in the postseason. In the East Finals, they held the Rangers to 2 or fewer goals in 5 of the 6 games. Emily Kaplan with much more from Sunrise.
When you spend time around the Florida Panthers, you realize they are a supremely confident group, and of course they should be. They've neutralized nearly every big star that they've faced in the playoffs to this point. But they get their biggest challenge in the Stanley Cup final when they face off against the greatest player in the world, Connor McDavid. I asked Matthew Tkachuk about what that's going to be like.
They're a really good team, and they're playing some great hockey, and they beat a great team in Dallas. So, obviously at this point, not only myself, but the rest of the team are not huge fans of them because they're standing in our way of our ultimate goal. But it was going to have to be somebody we were playing against. So a great team over there, and we're really excited for the challenge.
I've talked a lot about winning and what that would mean to me, but for the city of Edmonton, they deserve it, honestly. They've stuck through some bad times. You talk about the decade of darkness and stuff like that, and they always kept showing up and cheering us on, and just proud to play in Edmonton and represent that city.
It has been a roller coaster season for the Oilers, but Zach Hyman told me his team has an unshakable belief in themselves. That's a message that came from their sports psychologist consultant, George Mumford. Mumford is pretty famous in the field after working with Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. One potential advantage for Florida: this is the longest travel series in Stanley Cup final history, and Edmonton was the first team that had to take that long flight. From Sunrise, Florida, Emily Kaplan, ESPN.
Hot Ticket is brought to you by Vivid Seats, the only ticket company that rewards you for buying.
Back to the NBA, we continue to follow this developing story. Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that the Lakers are preparing a massive long-term deal to lure Dan Hurley away from UConn. He was scheduled to meet with GM Rob Pelinka and owner Jeannie Buss in L.A. today. Hurley has led the Huskies to back-to-back championships. at UConn. Danny Green back here with us. You were part of that Lakers last championship in 2020 with LeBron and Anthony Davis. What do you make of Hurley's potential fit here if he becomes their next head coach?
I think he's a great fit. I mean, we heard, rumblings of JJ being the one they're zeroing in on. And I think JJ's a good fit too. But, I think a lot of people are looking at the conflicts of interest in that locker room, of course, that JJ has and the ties with LeBron and the podcast. I think this is someone kind of removed, not as close, that they will probably respect more. I think they'll respect JJ as well, but I think they'll respect him a little more so they don't know him that well. They don't think he has any ties or any whatever conflicts with LeBron. So I think he's a really good head coach. He's the right guy. He's a great candidate. And if they can get him, that'd be great. But I don't see him leaving UConn. He has a really good home there. They're probably going to pay him again, extend him. Why would you leave there when you have a more stable situation? LA, they says long term, but we know how that always plays out. It will give you a long term deal, but you got 2 years to win here. It's a win now situation. Anytime you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis on your team, you have to win now.
You brought up stable situation. I do want to get into that. As an NBA veteran, what do you think of a college coach coming in? Listen, Dan Hurley is a basketball savant, but how does that translate here? The energy and how he is on the sideline. How does that translate 82-game schedule in the NBA?
Yeah, I don't know if he could sustain that, how much energy he brings every game. He'll probably change his approach. But listen, it's no shocker to me. I mean, I won't put it out the door. I've seen Billy Donovan do it. Billy Donovan was great at Florida. I didn't think he'd ever leave. So there's always a possibility that he may leave and couldn't adapt and adjust well. Billy Donovan has done it in numerous situations that he's been in. I didn't think he'd leave Florida, so he could be very much like Billy Donovan. But he'd have to change his approach of how he's, at the referees, chest bumping players and attacking other players. I don't think he could sustain that for 82 games in the NBA season. But it'll be interesting and fun to see.
It has worked currently at the level he's at right now. Hurley has won over 70% of his games in 6 seasons as